What happened?
While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping. As someone gently rapping at my chamber. I'm sorry, I was reading the Raven. My bad, guys.
Oh my! Oh, really?
Yeah, I knew that.
You can't
In the
fool us. You're a
playoffs,
math teacher. You can't fool us.
They are in the playoffs, never more, bitch. Let's go.
So,
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Why as Paul tries to open up his bottle?
it's a hard cider. Okay, listen, I'm not going to be judged. It's 8 degrees outside. Here we go, boys.
I'm sure it's a hard cider. You went from 6 to midnight when the Bills went up 11. There we go.
Argue with that.
All right, I'll get to all the chat and everything else. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hashtag Sports presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus the Baltimore Ravens divisional matchup, sponsored by Mr. Rogers Homes. All of our stuff, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook will be in our link tree. All episodes will be on iTunes and Spotify. We are celebrating the Buffalo Bills I know I make jokes, but they survived the Baltimore Ravens tonight in order to book a first-class ticket to Kansas City. We've been here before. Guys. Initial thoughts for Paul and Joe. Paul, initial thoughts on the game, sir?
Oh, that's easy. Ready? Fuck them birds. 3-peat these nuts. Let's go. I just it's just one of those things, right?
Good Lord.
Listen, Buffalo, 3 turnovers. You beat a team by 2 points. We almost Sean McDermott the end of that game. We almost McDermotted the end of that game. Just heartbreaking to me, right? That you're on the 2-yard line and you're like, no, I trust my defense to stop them if they score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. But what is playoff football if there's not, let's put it into overtime, right? Like, what's playoff football? Unless we say, I don't know, this has gone well for us in the past. Let's try and do it in overtime, right? Let's do overtime playoff football. I love it. No.
For a fleeting moment, Paul, I was like, they're going to miss it. They missed the 2-point conversion. I go, they're going to get the onside and kick a field goal with Tucker. Once again, a game where Allen left with the lead and does not come back on the damn field.
I know, snake bitten again, right? Like, the ghosts of Christmas past, they just keep coming up. First off, I want to thank Shivas here. Shivas, an old school hashtag supporter. This is a throwback from a while ago, right? This is some years ago. Shivas bought us a round of I think it was playoff football, actually. We were drinking Modelo's. We were doing the post game at your house. We were drinking Modelo's.
Cheers, Shivas. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Go Bills. Hashtag sports. Thank you very much, my friend. And Joe, on the call for the game, our resident referee, taking care of everything, the ins and outs. What do you think about the game as you called it, Joe?
It's amazing the difference in officiating between the regular season and the postseason. But as far as my initial thoughts, like you just said, initial thoughts. We're going to talk about everything, right? We're going to talk about the coaching decisions that made this game maybe close than we wanted to, how the Bills come out in the second half kind of lackluster. We're going to talk about all that. But initial thoughts, this is the playoffs. This is when to move on. We won. We're moving on. Shut the fuck up. It doesn't matter. The Bills are in the AFC Championship game. That is my initial thought. And I wasn't going to say the F word, Paul already did, so I feel like I'm safe to say it, you know. So.
Technically, PG-13 standards say that we can say only once, so you've already violated. We're now rated R. It's okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. Thanks.
Don't blame me. Yeah. I go 4 hours not slipping one time. I do it here for 10 minutes.
I know you wanted to say it multiple times during that third and fourth quarter.
I stopped myself a couple times. You can tell on the stream. I'm like, nope, can't do it.
No, but Mar, and correct me if I'm wrong here, right? But we talked about this on the post-game
show. I will.
Prior. We talked about this on the post-game show prior to the Ravens game. If you can get Baltimore down, you take Derrick Henry off the field. And you saw in that final drive, where's Derrick Henry, right? No Derrick Henry. They do some razzle-dazzle. They move the football down the field on Buffalo. And they gave Lamar all the time in the world to be a quarterback and try and beat you, right? We've talked about this. We've said, listen, you make Lamar be a quarterback and try and beat you. And there were a couple times where he threw some nice passes, and other times where he'd throw passes like the Derrick Henry drop early in the game. That pass has got to be thrown better. He threw a beautiful go route to Taylor Rapp. I don't know if that's how he drew it up. The Mark Andrews pass at the end of the game, a 2-point conversion, that pass can be thrown better. There's just some things that as a refined quarterback with 2 MVPs, you just expect a little better. And he's a dynamic weapon. But they kept him in the pocket. They made him beat. They let him try to beat them as a quarterback, and that's daring.
It is because like you said, you are talking about 2-time MVP, more than likely, as it plays out, 3-time MVP, and you gave him 8 seconds to throw, and that's not plausible for the cornerbacks. You're missing Rapp. You got Cam Lewis out there, and Cole Bishop as well. Yep. You know what I mean? But some of those passing sets, they had Cam Lewis come on the field and stuff like that for Dorian Williams. And it was tough for some of those things to manifest because you were giving him all day to throw it. And if not, he was creating more time. I prior to that last touchdown drive that Baltimore had. Now listen, we talk a lot of stuff here. We do this and that. I understand that. But I said, listen, if he's the MVP that everybody says he is, he's going to lead this team down to score. Mm-hmm. And you're going against a Buffalo team that at some point, Paul and Joe, I think they don't care if they get scored on.
Yeah.
Go down the field. We got 17, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very dangerous recipe, for doing things that way. And I think that if the Bills are lucky, and I assume that the Eagles are going to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC, you're going to face something very, very similar in for the Eagles. I know it's down the road, but you're going to face something very similar with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. That's going to be very, very tough to stop. And plus, I think they have a better defense than the Ravens. But all that notwithstanding, he proved it. He drove the team down. Yep. He got him in position. Andrews drops that ball in the end zone. If he catches that ball, it's a different thing. Like except for the turnovers, really, I don't really put a lot of this game on Lamar because he did as much as he could with what he was given. You know what I mean? But if you're going to tell me the one drive, he hits Mark Andrews for 112-yard gain, and Justice Hill and Derrick Henry rushed the ball for 68 yards to score a touchdown. How's that your MVP? You literally took the ball out of his hands when they were down 11.
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, well, and you could see the game kind of unfolding, right? Because we talked about it at halftime. I expected to see Justice Hill be a big part in the second half, and he broke a couple nice runs, big chunk plays. Like Justice Hill, 6 carries, averaged 8.3 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like there was more on the bone there, right? Like I don't know. I understand what Baltimore does, and Buffalo certainly gave Baltimore opportunities, in the intermediate pass game, right? Like they really allowed Baltimore to get those routes off in the middle. But the fact of the matter is they looked resigned by the fact of, okay, we're just not going to let Lamar run. We're going to keep him here. We're going to keep him in the pocket. We'll let him buy himself some time. And we believe that, we have a better chance of causing a turnover if we have Lamar throwing the football as opposed to, allowing him to run on us. Because early in the game, it felt like they were trying to chase him a bit, right? And he made him pay. He made him pay for that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And
the same thing happened in the Steelers game, though. First half, it looked like they were chasing him. And then the second half, now granted, they were up 21-0 at halftime, but in the second half, the Steelers defense kind of buckled down. And it was the Steelers won the second half of that game, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're facing a completely different animal next week. And with Kansas City, and we've been here before, obviously, Buffalo tonight actually winning the penalty battle. We want to make sure we mention that. Baltimore had 5 penalties for 43 yards. Trey White, thank you, giving back to Buffalo one last time. Appreciate that. And the Bills 1 penalty for 10 yards, which was the snatch and trap that Dawkins did, which is not a penalty. Yep. He was literally explaining that to the ref who threw the flag on him. That is not a penalty, and he's been doing it all year.
Can you explain that, Mark? Can you explain that?
What the
snatch and trap? Yeah, the snatch and trap.
Oh yeah, you bait the guy in order to just throw him to the ground. Basically, the guy tries to reach out and you bring him down. He's been doing that all year. So if they're going to call that penalty on that, we better see like 15, 16 penalties on Jawan Taylor next week for false starts.
Well,
I mean, honestly, if you're going to do stuff like that.
I also do want to catch the all 22 at some point and rewatch that play and see if they simply got the wrong guy. Like, I really do. I want to see what happened to the guard play on that play and see if they simply called the wrong number, because there's no way that's a holding call in any.
You know what's weird? I think
as someone who gives credit to the refs before I just throw them under the bus.
You know what's weird is that for the amount of time that Dawkins was talking to him, I think it was on him. I think he did throw it on him, because if it was just, it wasn't on, I misspoke. Dawkins would have walked back to the huddle and been nothing. So he was literally explaining how it goes. But I mean, this is what you wanted. You're playing Kansas City in Kansas City. You won by 9 the first matchup. I mean, it's another case where you're playing a team that you already played in the regular season. Joe, what do you think will be different, if anything? I mean, well, let's just tease this a little bit. What would be different, if anything, in the Kansas City matchup?
Well, I think, I'm really interested to see how serious this Rapp injury is. Like, that would be a big problem if Rapp can't play in the Kansas City Chiefs game. I think that, I often wonder, Andy Reid's like a genius, right? Like I even said this in the regular season after the Bills beat him. Andy Reid's playing chess while the rest of the league's playing checkers, is how I feel sometimes. He's held some stuff back this season that he's ready to expose in the Bills game if he needs to. We saw Kelsey go for a ridiculous number, and we saw Mark Andrews open quite a few times today. He had 2 drops in this game, not just the 2-point conversion drop. He had a drop earlier in the game. He might have had 3. I think there was one in the first half they had 2. Does Travis Kelsey fumble that ball at the 50-yard line? Now, normally Mark Andrews is pretty well, but I say no, but Mark Andrews, that's only his second fumble all time, right? So,
oh my God,
you never know. So you never know what's going to happen. But I think that the Rapp injury is a huge deal right now, because we just saw this. Like, we just saw this. You can't take any stock in the regular season matchup. Like, for all the Ravens people, like 35-10, 35-10. Okay. Good job.
Yeah.
Way to win the regular season. And how many times have the Bills won the regular season matchup against the Chiefs?
I think they're 6-0.
Yeah.
I think they're 6-0.
They're 6-0, and they're 0-5 or 0-3 in the postseason. So
yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very different feel. Obviously, you're going to have what I call the Bob Sanders effect with Matt Milano. I mean, playoff Matt Milano has showed up. I mean, he was just lighting it up out there. He was doing some. I mean, not so much in the run game. I mean, they literally assigned him to Lamar Jackson, which was very, very interesting. I mean, I kept seeing that video online on Twitter all week of when Lamar juked him. But it's one of those things where he did a similar thing that he did to Tua when Lamar just got the pass off, and Milano took a step and shoved him like he did to Tua. Yeah, I didn't see anything like to happen after that, but apparently it wasn't a penalty. But he's just still doing his old tricks, Milano, the crazy bastard.
Griffin Mullen comes in and says, Ravens fan here, y'all are the better team. Please beat Mahomes. Oh, dude, thank you. First off, thank you very much. We appreciate the support. Yeah, no, man. You got to go in. We've been talking about it all season, right? If the Bills were to, and let's just put the cart before the horse, right? Let's say the Bills won the Super Bowl, but they didn't have to beat Kansas City, right? What is it? Oh, your Bills finally won a Super Bowl, but you didn't beat the best quarterback of this generation because of insert excuse here, right? Yeah. Like, this is what you have to do. You have to go and slay the dragon. And for Kansas City, this is a game you have to win. You're trying to do something that has never happened in NFL history. You're going for 3 in a row. It's never happened before, right? Like, you're going for the 3-peat. You want it, but you're going to have to beat the best team in the AFC in order to do it. Not the team with the best record. Yeah, Kansas City had the best record. But, just as an example, Kansas City, correct me if I'm wrong here, they hadn't, up until last night, they hadn't covered any spread this season that was 7 points or more.
Nope.
You're correct.
I don't believe so. No. That's a Joe question. That's a Joe question.
Yeah.
No, you're correct. They're before last night, they were actually 500 against the spread all season long.
Yeah.
They just have had a hard time struggling. A lot of wins by
One
the
score.
skin of their teeth. And listen,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? You can say what you want, and I know a lot of people in chat and a lot of people in my life will say officials this, officials that. Winning's winning. Winning's winning. So, bottom line, you can say what you want about the Houston game last night, and I understand. And I'm not saying that there weren't bad calls last night. There absolutely were. 11 minutes to go from the 11-minute point on. Houston's down by 1 score, and you can't look past that point and say there was a bad call in that game. So Houston, I think a lot of times there's a bad call that goes against the teams that are playing the Chiefs, and they get down just like the rest of us do, right? And they're like, oh, well, we're playing against the refs. Like, no, the refs are humans. They make bad plays too, or bad calls too. Like, they're humans. I actually said in the pregame that second unsportsmanlike or whatever it is on the Texans where they didn't even hit Mahomes in the helmet. They actually hit each other. Yeah. I made that call. I made that exact call in a high school game this year where you just hear the helmets collide and you're like, oh, that's bad. And you have to throw, because if you don't throw a flag and they did hit Mahomes in the head, that's worse. That's the get back from that. You're not doing another playoff game. If you thought you were doing the Super Bowl, you're not. Like, it's so much worse. So I get it.
Well,
but
and to that effect, right? So I think you bring up an interesting point, because it felt to me at times like the games that happened yesterday impacted the way these games were. This game was officiated, because there were what looked like hate crimes going on out there at times. Like, at times, it felt bad. Now, with that being said, I am thankful for the fact that we had a game officiated like this before going to Kansas City, right? Because now there's no excuses. You know what's going to happen when you go to Kansas City, right? They're not going to call hold all day. They're not going to call an offensive pass interference all day. And they might call defensive holding, right? Like, that's going to be what you see, that you're going to see defensive holding.
They're going to call a lot of that. If it's incomplete and Mahomes points, it's going to be defensive holding.
I know that's what it feels like, right? So with that being said, I'm glad to have a game where the flags were in the pocket all day, because poor Ed Oliver got so beat up today. They were doing whatever they wanted to the interior of that Bills defense. And I didn't really feel like Buffalo was doing it on the other side. Like, I would hope that I was objective about that. Probably not, but I would hope that I would be maybe a little. And the game was very poorly officiated, and it feels like it was because of like all the rumblings from the Kansas City game, and then to follow that up from the Lions game where Goff, had his clock cleaned. Right now, no quarterback took a hit like that. So with that being said, no quarterback today took a hit like that. No. But a game in bad weather against a team that wants to establish the run. Both teams want to establish the run. You need to control the line of scrimmage as a referee. You have to control the line of scrimmage. And the refs just didn't. They chose not to do that. And guys were throwing each other all over the field after the play. Not a single flag, not even offsetting penalties to say, now, guys, that's like the teacher in the classroom turning the lights on and off. Like, hey, turn the lights on and off. Like, hey, offsetting penalties, right? Like, that's just the refs, saying, no, we're going to call that. We're going to.
That doesn't work, FYI. Just letting you know.
Throw a flashing the lights on and off.
Just from experience, dude. It's getting back, in the thick of it of the game today. I think the Buffalo Bills, when they came out in the second half, they got a little bit complacent, and we saw it in the chat a little bit. This may be Joe Brady's worst game. I wouldn't say worst. I would say this is his most conservative game. I think once they got up 11, they were like, okay, we not only have the lead, but we have the clock on our side too. They're most effective when they're running the ball, the Ravens, and let's just try to take that off. And then when you saw that 8-play, 68-yard or whatever drive come out, and they're like, oh, okay, we can't continue to toy around with them anymore. Mm-hmm. We have to do something. We have to put something else on tape, and we have to do something else to try to move the ball. And I agree with Romo. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that Romo says, but when he said, you're on the 2-yard line, you got 2 downs. Why not just sneak it with Allen? I mean, you've been doing it all year.
Yeah.
You effectively shut the game down. The game's over. Like, I don't care what. I don't care who's on the other sideline. I don't care if it is Mahomes. You know what I mean? You're not losing that game if Josh Allen scores his third rushing touchdown of the day. But
right. But
you know what?
You open the door for a chance. Like, you score a touchdown, the game's over. They need 2 touchdowns to beat you, right?
But the statistics say you do kick it. Three some minutes left. They only have 1 timeout. You kick the ball there and go up 8. You know what I mean? And that's statistically that's proven. But we, in Buffalo have just been, we have that feeling that, McDermott is trusting his defense over Josh Allen again. You know what I mean? How many times it's going to bite him in the ass before he realizes that he needs to have 17 out there at the end?
I literally texted you guys that as soon as it happened. I was like, even though we have seen growth from McDermott this year, we have, and I think he's done a great job. Push comes to shove, biggest moment of the season, and you still rely on your defense more than the MVP, or our MVP at least.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The fact that Bills fans were chanting MVP with Lamar in the building was hysterical.
Well, and again, like the voting's over for MVP, right? So for those of you thinking that this, and now, right, as Bills fans, you won this game, right? Does a part of you do you just kind of not care if Josh wins MVP now? Like, do we really care about that anymore?
No, I never did. I never did.
I never did.
I already said Saquon should have won it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, we can call it award what it is. We've gone over this for a few weeks now, Paul, you and I. It's a quarterback award. Let's just put it what it is. The guy that should have won the MVP always gets the offensive player of the year. That's pretty much what it is.
Last year, McCaffrey should have won it.
Oh yeah, McCaffrey definitely should. And
I will say Josh Allen deserves it over Lamar. I'll say that.
I'd say he's more valuable to his team than Lamar was.
Yeah.
So when they vote for statistics, what's interesting though, if you know the names of the 50 people that are supposed to vote on the award, and watch their columns and or tweets this week, it's interesting. You're going to see who voted for Lamar and who didn't, just by what they write. It's Emmanuel Acho, I believe, is one of the people that decides that, and he is emphatically defending Lamar Jackson on Twitter and everywhere else. So who he voted for.
Emmanuel Acho so much. You just hate Emmanuel Acho.
Give me one point he's ever made that made sense.
You can't drag me into deep water here. I'm not defending Emmanuel Acho.
All right, Tony B. Let's go to Tony B real quick.
I do think it changes every year, doesn't it? I think. I'm not.
The rotation.
People, I don't know. That I don't know. That's above my pay grade. Tony B. On paper, the field goal is the right call, but when JA-17 is your quarterback, you burn that paper. Thank you for that.
That's right.
Thank you for that, Tony B. Yeah,
if Josh on the 2-yard line can't get it in, and you give the football up to them on the 2-yard line, don't you feel a little more comfortable with that? I mean, the fact of the matter is, you don't.
No,
you don't.
Hey, what are they going to do? They're going to come out in heavy and run with Derrick Henry. Yeah. We've seen the end of that story before. 87 yards later.
They still only have one time. So even though they go heavy and run Derrick Henry, so by the 2-minute warning, they're at the 15-yard line. That's what he's talking about.
But why call the timeout to kick the field goal?
That's
he wanted to burn as much time as he could, I think, in that situation.
Yeah, but in that instance, right? Don't you send the offense out there to get the look for his Kodak timeout or whatever the hell he does every week? Because I saw a motion of the ref with 1 second, right? He's like, hey, we're going to take timeout with 1 second on the play clock. Ref gives him the okay. And I was like, okay, maybe this is his Kodak timeout, right? He wants to see what they're going to do. He wants to see what look they're going to get and then decide whether they're going to go for it or not. But they didn't even have the offense line up.
No, they were I think what it was is they were undecided. I think when you went into that 1st and goal situation, Brady has to be on the horn with McDermott saying, listen, do I have 4 downs here? I have all 4 downs to do what I need to do? And I really thought that the keeper that Josh had, where he just got tripped up and then went down to the 2, I really think that was the play that he thought he was going to score. And he was like, oh, well, I assume that he figured, or they didn't talk about that. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't on the headset. I don't know, but you have to, when you get into that situation, as far as an offensive play caller and a head coach, you got to say, listen, do I have 4 downs to work with here? Because that's going to affect all my play calling that goes on right here. If I don't, okay, I have to call it in 3. Instead, I'm calling it in 4, and all that stuff. I think they were unsure about that, and they didn't communicate that. Therefore, the timeout was used, and he was like, I'm just going to try to burn as much time as I can and call a timeout.
I do want to make this point for everyone in the chat who says fire McDermott, or for anyone who, and I'm not saying I like McDermott or don't, but there's a big difference between Ryans on Saturday forcing a snap late in the play clock and getting a sack, and McDermott calling that timeout to go over that decision. Like, we might say McDermott's not as good as some coaches, and I understand that, but you think about that. Ryans on Saturday was unsure about a 4th down, decided last minute to go for it. Instead of burning his last timeout, he went for it and ended in a sack, and they didn't get points, and they lose the game. So that's something to be said. Now, I wish they would have at least lined up and tried a false start, because there's a big difference between 4th and goal from the 2 and 4th and goal from the 1.
That's where I'm with you, Joe. That's what I mean.
What's 5 yards do to you there? Anyway, it doesn't.
Absence to the goal.
No, I meant if you take a delay a game, trying to draw them off. You know what I mean? It's 5 yards. It's chip shot anyway. Daniel Gowry's coming in and says the field goal is the right call. Wanted a TD badly, but on 4th down, the field goal was a smart. I know that's you're playing the numbers at that point. It really is a smart decision, because then they have to go all the way down the field, score, and get the 2-point conversion, which you saw why that strategy works. You know what I mean? If the team's able to go down the field, and then obviously the first down run by Ty Johnson seals it.
Yeah. Hey, kudos to Ty Johnson for being the pro, right? And just sliding and ending that run. Like, good job, Ty Johnson.
Oh yeah. I mean,
job.
That's the thing about this Bills team. And throughout the entire game, I didn't see any panic. Like, there wasn't any kind of like panic in that. McDermott walks down we were just talking about that 4th down play. He walks down, he goes, you can see him mouth the words, what 1 second, what 1 second, I'm going to burn one. You know what I mean? There's no panic in it. You know what I mean? Crazy.
I was telling my wife this week, I said, listen, I think the Bills need to run 3 linebacker sets this week, and I don't think McDermott has the balls to run 3 linebacker sets. That's exactly what I said to her. And we start the game, and I'm looking, I was like, I see Dorian Williams on the field. I'm looking, I was like, holy shnikes, we're running 3 linebacker sets. And Donnybrook brings it up. And then you hit the second half of the game, and all of a sudden, there's no 3 linebackers on the field. And Derrick Henry's starting to truck over every single corner you have. And you're like, oh, gee, I remember what this looked like. Like, you roll back the film from week 4. You're like, yeah. Look, he's got snow tires. Who knew? Right.
6 carries, six yards per rush for Baltimore tonight. That's ridiculous.
That's what they averaged all season, Mark. They averaged 6 yards per carry.
Yeah, but they were doing that mostly. And this is the thing that pisses me off. Can we stop flashing that stupid stat the entire game? Since week 11, Baltimore's number 1, and they're number 1 against the rush. Nobody's running the ball against you, idiots. That's why you're number 1. When you get down by so much in a game, you don't run the ball anymore. Stop. It's so stupid. And that's like the thing. I'm gonna do it, Paul. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna call it Nick Wright too, because I'm tired of this nonsense. First off, stop copying my hair, Nick. That's one. Number 2 is this. He was saying that Patrick Mahomes gets all the calls, and they're talking about him and Josh Allen and stuff. Well, actually, Josh Allen has more roughing the passer calls than Patrick Mahomes. Of course, it's a different offensive system, and it's a different type of quarterback. Allen moves around more than Mahomes does. He doesn't get the ball out of his hands as much as Mahomes does. So the amount of times that he is going to put himself in position to get a roughing the passer is vastly more than Patrick Mahomes does. So stop saying that the refs favor Josh just because he has more of those penalties. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like no one's ever watched a football game before. Nick Wright's eyes, and he's saying, "Well, okay, that's my first point." You know, shut up. Just seriously, just shut up.
One of these days he'll get a chin. Just one of these days. Eventually, Nick Wright will grow a chin.
He's covering it with a beard.
He's not fooling anybody. Come on. Come on. He's not fooling anybody. As the game wore on, right? Baltimore, first off, kudos to Baltimore, because this was a fun game. I expected the score to be quite a bit higher, but I did not expect Baltimore to give the ball up 3 times. Like, you beat a Baltimore team by 2 points and you got 3 turnovers. And against Kansas City Kansas City's defense doesn't generate turnovers, but the offense doesn't give the ball up either. Like they have like near epic levels of like, we're not going to give you an extra possession. And that's why they're winning football games, right? That's why they had the record they had, because while they might be barely beating teams, they're barely beating teams because they're not giving up possessions, And Mar, you and I talked about this earlier this week. Today, the team that had less 3 and outs was the team that was going to win. Well, because I just didn't expect either team to give up the ball. I didn't expect Buffalo to give up the ball. I didn't expect Baltimore to give up the ball. They hadn't thrown, Lamar threw 4 interceptions all season. Like, you don't expect him to give up the football.
No, you don't. You really don't. That interception to Rapp was bad, though.
Yeah, it was super bad.
It was so bad. Yeah. And Paul, to your point, when you talk about Patrick Mahomes has not thrown an interception since November 17th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know who they played
don't
then?
give up the ball.
You know who they played then?
Who?
He threw 2 picks on November 17th. You know to who?
No.
Buffalo.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't give up the ball except to Buffalo.
Come on, Paul. It was a gimme.
Oh, come on.
I put it on a tee for you. Jesus Christ. Oh, man. So going into next week, don't you talk, Paul, like that. Going into next week, obviously, we're going to see a vastly different offensive and defensive game plan coming out of Buffalo. I mean, this is really the Kansas City Chiefs, and I might just regret saying this. The Kansas City Chiefs are the team that the Buffalo Bills essentially built their team, most notably the defensive side of the ball. That's how they built their team, is to stop Patrick Mahomes and that offense. That's how they built their defense. That's why so many people were worried about Baltimore, because they play a completely different style. Mm-hmm. So going into next week, let's say you're down Taylor Rapp. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. Do they elevate Micah Hyde just in case?
I don't know if Hyde's really ready to go, dude.
I didn't think Milano was either.
I think there's a big difference between.
Huge difference.
There's a big difference.
Huge difference. But I'm just saying, if just having him on the side, I think he's on the sideline, isn't he? Is he talking to Bishop? And
he didn't dress today.
Okay. And I'm not saying like suited up. I'm just saying, like, is he on the sideline talking with Bishop, talking with Hamlin, doing a bunch of stuff like that? I mean, this is a team where when you have two teams that are just as evenly matched as the Bills and the Chiefs are, and they know each other so well because they played each other every year, it's one of those things where special teams play sometimes breaks it wide open. Sometimes a trick play breaks it wide open. Something that you're not going to expect your opponent to do, because all you do is punch each other in the mouth all the time. Well, if you slip an undercut in there, we'll and rattle your opponent, we'll see what happens. But it's going to be so interesting to see. Joe, calling the first game of the Kansas City Buffalo game. Mm-hmm. What do you expect Buffalo to take from that game, and what do you expect maybe possibly new to come into the game for next week?
Because I think that something that people are forgetting is that Joe Brady is still learning this game as far as an offensive coordinator and the Buffalo Bills system. It might be 17 games, and you might say that's enough, but there's a big difference between the third quarter of the first time we played Baltimore and the third quarter of this time we played Baltimore. The third quarter of the first time we played Baltimore, too aggressive. If you remember, the Bills went down 21-3 at half. They scored to open the second half, 3 and out. They get the ball. They do that trick, stupid play that forces a fumble, changes the whole complexion of that ball game. This time, maybe a little too conservative to start the third quarter, right? Like, he didn't want to do what he did the last game. He learned from that mistake, but now he has to compensate, because I think he'll realize that being as passive as he was in this third quarter was a mistake. So what happened in the KC game will affect what he does in this game. You talk about trick plays. I don't see too many trick plays being called by Brady. But what I do see is Brady putting this game more in Josh Allen's hands. I don't see them coming out with a running philosophy, in that game next week against Kansas City. like he did probably the first time they played Kansas City. He ran the ball a little bit more than they will in this game coming up.
Gotcha. Sorry, Joe. We're dealing with some kind of issue in the chat. We're trying to fix it up.
Yeah,
And
don't worry about it. We're good.
Daniel took care of it. No. You guys want to come here and say this, that, the third. You're going to get called out.
For me.
You're going to get called out.
Nah, we let the chat handle that. These boys.
The chat, the hashtag chat is listen. If I'm going into a bar and I got to try to get out of that bar, I'm bringing the hashtag chat with me.
Yeah, you hope Daniel Garies is your moderator. He's out there swinging the
I'm standing behind Paul Berg. You kidding me?
Yeah, that's true. Paul's an intimidating guy.
Yes.
He's an intimidating guy. Paul strikes me as a guy who just doesn't ever wear socks. Do you get that feel? Just everywhere, no socks.
Doesn't wear socks and consistently opens twist tops with his teeth.
Yeah.
Hollins is his hero. That's what.
There
you go. See, Paul don't care.
Paul do not care.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
He's
true.
A big boy.
So, Paul, what do you think is the same, and what do you think is different going into Kansas City this week?
Well, first off, I mean, start to finish, pass rush is going to look totally different. You know, the way that you attack Mahomes is not the same way that you attack Lamar. I really like the 3 linebacker look. I'm just going to be honest. I really like the 3 linebacker look.
Isn't it?
It's not going to happen. It's just, we're not going to see it again. No. Right. I think they thought Baltimore wouldn't think they were going to do it. Right. Like that. It's really what Buffalo just didn't run it all that much. And they ran a ton of man because they were running 3 linebacker sets. And one of the reasons they were running a ton of man in the first half was because you had to, because you were running 3 linebacker slats and spying Lamar. And I don't think Baltimore thought Buffalo would have the cojones to do it. And that's probably why, it looked the way it looked in the first half. And then Baltimore made some adjustments. They started taking advantage of man. Buffalo swapped out, went back to the nickel looks, and then that gave the run game back to Baltimore. The only thing that I will say is that even in nickel, there were some gaping holes in coverage as Lamar was able to buy time, and Mahomes is an expert at buying time. That's what you have to fix, right? There were some huge holes in coverage, specifically over the middle of the field and 15 to 20 yards downfield.
And that's where Kelsey lives.
That's where Kelsey's going to, right, exactly. So those are the types of things that, when you watch this tape back, the Bills are probably pretty pissed about how all this went down. I'm just going to be honest with you. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's going to be some things where we saw, like you said, we saw a lot of man. We saw a lot of all-out blitzes, double A-gap blitzes just to get in the face of Lamar. And that is something you can carry on to next week for Mahomes. That's something you can do if you can try to beat it. They have Joe Thuney, I believe, playing left tackle for them. This guy's an all-pro guard. He's playing left tackle for him. That is something that you have to try to exploit if he's still there. You have to try to exploit that side. You got to put Groot over there. I don't expect Epineza to be on that side too much. Maybe you put Miller over there a few times. It's the opposite side that Miller likes rushing, but it's something that he can exploit, because you're not going to have the kind of mobility out of Patrick Mahomes as you will with Lamar Jackson. Lamar is just literally the most dangerous guy in the league with his feet. But talking about manipulating a pocket, I don't think anybody's better than Mahomes. So that's the thing that you're going to have to do. He can manipulate a pocket like anybody else. But if you bring that double A-gap blitz, that's something you can take. I would champion the idea of a 3 linebacker set more if you have 3 linebacker set and you have Teron on the field and you take Hamlin out. I'm good with that.
Yeah, man, Hamlin.
I've seen enough of DeMar Hamlin.
Oh my
I really
God.
have.
Joe,
I'm done.
Joe, how do you not swear during your broadcasts of the game when DeMar's playing? I just need to know how you do it. You're a better man than me. Let me just say that. I've invented words watching DeMar this year, so
Well, send those to me and I'll say those. YouTube doesn't know to censor us for those. But I will say that the first big play by Baltimore, I don't blame Hamlin for that. Hamlin kind of got stuck in no man's land because Lamar kind of
The Bateman play,
out. Huh?
Was that
No,
the
the
Bateman
play is completely on him. When Bateman get past him, I forget it was the first scoring drive by Baltimore. It was the first drive of the game. Lamar rolls to the right, and at the safety, it's him and Teron Johnson are the only two guys on that side of the field, and they have to kind of stop because if Lamar takes off, he easily has 10 yards. But then I forget who it was. Maybe it was Bateman who got behind him on that play too. But that second Bateman play was so bad, like just so bad that he gets beat. And obviously that's something that the Bills will need to address in the off season. But we're in the AFC Championship game. We can't address that right. Like he's there. Like that's we have to. The Bills defense has to game plan knowing that that's an issue. They can't fix it at this point. Kind of like what I told you at halftime. The Baltimore's defense was what it was. They're not going to show you anything exotic. If I'm the Chiefs, that's something I look to take advantage of all game long is Damar Hamlin.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's nothing the Bills can do about it. And that's why the Rasul Douglas, the Rapp injury is so concerning to me because if Rapp's not there, it's a different ball.
Well, and Sean asked in the chat, what's Rapp's status? He went out with the hip, and he was carted to the locker room and was declared out immediately. So the hit didn't look that bad, right? And they may call it a hip when it's really not a hip. That's just one of those initial designations, and the Bills aren't going to move off of that probably till Tuesday. So I mean, hopefully it's nothing, but it didn't look like a bad hit, but it is one of those things that you just have to watch the injury report on Tuesday. You're not going to know until Tuesday. That's unfortunately just the way that's going to be.
And the worst part was when Teron Johnson went down, I was worried we'd be without Johnson and Rapp if we won this game, and that would have been scary to think about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, they went right after Cam Lewis. They went right after Cam Lewis right away. And again, you have Micah Hyde on this team for a reason. Are you going to have Micah near the because here's the problem, right? If you start Micah because Taylor's out, then that means you need DeMar being a hammer. And DeMar ain't no hammer.
Nope. He does come up and blitz. He does come off the edge every once in a while, but he's not that.
Right. Yeah, he's not. He's just not that guy. And again, you're asking Micah Hyde to step in after being away from football for an entire year, to play the biggest game of the season against, a team that he hasn't beaten yet in the playoffs. Like, that's a huge ask. Like, that's a gigantic ask. And it almost feels like, because again, don't get me wrong. Like, I like Cole Bishop at times out there, right? When guys were in motion, Cole Bishop was communicating with Bernard. Like, he was making sure that he was where he was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So there were some heady communication by Bishop when asked to play today. Maybe with a full week, things get better. I don't think it gets better, but I don't think Micah Hyde's on this team to start. Let me rephrase. Micah Hyde's not on this team to start. If you go into Kansas City, you lose Bishop or you lose Hamlin, Hyde will dress, and then Hyde will play then. But that's all you're going to get from him, right? Is a break glass in case of emergency Micah Hyde. That is the position that he's in.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Total insurance policy. Like, you can't. Could he dress? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would. If Rapp's out, out, you got to dress him. You can't do anything. What are you going to do? Put Cam Lewis back there? You're going to put, anybody else? No, you're not going to do that. Because, as you said, Paul, what was your description of Taron Johnson last week?
Oh, he's like that really cool Christmas toy that you get that when you open it up, you realize like the batteries are square and like it only runs for 20 minutes and the batteries die. You're like, what do we do? You have to Amazon him. Two days later, the batteries show up, and then everything's okay. But
I thought he tore his shoulder, and then all of a sudden he's up, like getting it tested and stuff like that. He's always missing plays throughout the game, dude.
Yeah, I know. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal with him.
Sean, you are 100% right on that one. Better than calling up AJ Klein like last year.
Yeah, I mean, AJ Klein wasn't even on the practice squad at that point. He was a free agent.
He was in an RV with his family. Jesus.
Yeah, that was a sign and start. Yikes. Oh, how far we've come. Oh, Shivas with a bold statement: if the Bills beat KC, I am buying Super Bowl tickets. That is an expensive venture, my friend.
It's a very expensive venture. I'd rather get WrestleMania tickets, but that's just me. I don't know.
Of course you would. It'd
be cheaper.
And probably, yeah, it would be a lot cheaper.
I will listen. If you're talking about Eagles fans and Bills fans in New Orleans for a day, like, give me that. Like, that will be a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you won't come back home, but it'll be a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
The brotherly shove versus the tush push.
Yeah.
Versus the snowplow. I think they call it the snowplow or something like that. That's $7,000 each.
Oh, what? For Super Bowl? Yeah. Yeah, for the Super Bowl. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you find it funny that I know some Baltimore Ravens going to latch onto this, but they showed the super fan during the game who got 2 tickets to the Super Bowl, the Buffalo super fan.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, gee, wonder why they're giving a Buffalo fan Super Bowl tickets. Is it rigged?
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
Is it rigged?
There is I think there is a couple things that we actually need to share, though, that were happening out in the Twitterverse, since we got to talk about Kansas City, right? First off, love this. Vontaze Perfect, 100,000 likes, and I'll come out of retirement to end this man's career.
If Vontaze Perfect and AB had a podcast, I'd listen to it.
Yeah, that man is wild. He is wild. But that Mahomes flop at the end was like,
so
come
dumb.
on, dude. Come on.
Stop it.
Come on. Be better.
That was. You got another one?
I do have another one. Let me pull it up real quick.
I can't remember if you had 2 or 3. I couldn't remember.
Yep. Mario this is why Mario is on Twitter. If you ever are on Twitter, it is not me.
No, it's not Paul. It will be Paul. He'll actually sign his name.
I will sign my tweets.
He will. Paul signs his tweets. And we don't delete anything either, guys, so you don't need to screenshot it.
Yeah.
Like some people do. It's kind of funny. So I decided this was 3 days ago. I said, Ravens flock, sit down. I have to prepare you for your offseason. Listen, Lamar Jackson is going to play great on Sunday, which he did. In fact, this may be his best playoff game yet, and he's going to lose. As a Bills fan, just know we've done this before. It's okay. Love Bills Mafia. Yeah. How many times have we sat there and said Allen played as good as he could have, and what happens?
Right.
The Bills lost the game because of something. You know what I mean?
And you know what? I was curious about that. So I did some stat digging, and I wanted to see. Whoops. All right, there we go. And I wanted to see what was the difference between games that Allen won and games that Allen lost, because, wins are a quarterback stat. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes to get you off a show. That's all I have to say.
Man, Paul used that 3 years ago.
There we go. So the games that Allen won versus games that Allen lost, the primary difference, statistically, the games are almost identical. Same number of interceptions, ultimately same number of rushing touchdowns, just around the same yards per game rushing, just around the same yards per game passing. Like, the numbers are almost identical, but the difference is the games that Allen has won, he's thrown twice as many touchdown passes. Today, different story.
Yes.
Right? Today, a different story. But normally what I would tell you is Josh Allen you'll win the playoff game if Josh Allen throws 3 touchdowns, because that's what the stats say. The stats say that on average in games that he wins, if he throws 3 touchdowns, the Bills win. If he throws less than 2 touchdowns, really the leveling point is 2. Josh is averaging 1.4 touchdowns in games the Bills lost in the playoffs. 1.4 touchdowns per game. But every other stat is identical to when they win. The difference is when they win, he throws 2.8 touchdowns per game. So if Josh Allen throws 3 touchdowns, you're going to win that football game. Again, today being the difference maker, right? Like, he didn't throw for 3 touchdowns, but he generated 2 touchdowns on the ground, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say it's the same thing, but the numbers were, because we've said this before, Josh doesn't deserve to lose the game. Josh has been the same quarterback in wins versus loss for the most part. The difference is the games that they don't win, he's throwing less touchdowns, which I guess shouldn't be a surprise, right? That would be how you lose. You throw less touchdowns than when you win. But
technically, that's not right.
What?
Tom Brady has won more playoff games throwing 0 touchdowns than Aaron Rodgers has throwing 3 touchdowns.
Of course, we know a Tom Brady stat. And kudos to Josh Allen for tying Tom Brady in rushing postseason touchdowns. One behind
he already
Steve
tied
Young.
him?
Yeah, I tied him. It was 7. Steve Young's got 8. Young's number 1 with 8.
Speaking of Steve Young, I literally urge everybody who's here, all the the 90 viewers that we have, make sure, number 1, you hit that like button. Number 2, check out the America's Game 1994 with the Niners. There's some striking similarities between the Buffalo Bills of 2024-25 and the Niners of that. I mean, obviously there's differences too, but you just take a look at it. Let me know if you guys see any similarities with it, because it's actually pretty amazing. I saw it the other night and I was just like, a lot of these things seem familiar to what's going on with the Buffalo Bills right now in 2024, 2025. So make sure you guys check that out. Did it end with a ring? It definitely ended with a ring. Yeah.
Is this the Bills' revenge tour? I say that because it's very possible the Bills could get their win back if they play the Washington Commanders in the Super Bowl. I don't want to look too far ahead.
Revenge. Stop. I was going to say, what did Denver do to them that they didn't do to themselves? You know what I mean?
I'm just throwing it out there, right?
No, I understand. This is, a lot of people will say and go back to the 13 seconds and say, listen, that was the Buffalo Bills. And for a lot of people that like to say, talk about windows closing, listen, as long as Josh Allen's on the Bills, I don't think their window's closed. Okay. I think he's proven that this year.
Yeah.
But people will say, 2021 was their best chance to get to a Super Bowl with that roster, with that team, this and that and the third. And I understand that. I'd like to say that this season and what has transpired is it's quite possibly their best, not 2021, because 2021 you didn't have as seasoned Josh Allen as you did. You had probably a bigger risk taker in Josh Allen in 2021, but you didn't have a more seasoned quarterback.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit there.
Go
ahead. And you guys tell me in hashtag nation, you guys tell me if you disagree with this, but I think with the implementation of screens as often as we see them in the Bills offense right now, that is the opportunity to generate quick yardage, right? To put the Bills in a 2nd and 6, right? Like that's really what those screens are designed for, is to get them into better down and distance. And it feels to me like that is releasing the pressure from Josh having to generate everything by himself, right? Because the screen literally is, he doesn't have to do anything. He's got to get the ball and get rid of it as fast as he can. He doesn't have to do a thing. So the screen game to me feels like it alleviates the pressure of Josh feeling like he has to press, right? Now, mind you, sometimes that blows up on you, right? They do back-to-back screens near the end of the game. They actually checked to the screen with Kincaid, which bothered me quite a bit, right? I threw that screen to Kincaid near the end of the game. And he checked to that, right? Didn't love that, but I get it. But before, you're right, we've seen Chaos Josh or Sugar High Josh just running around trying to do everything all by himself. But by taking those short yards that you gain through the screen game, that's a play where Josh doesn't have to do anything. You just get the ball, get rid of it as fast as possible, take the 4 yards, be done with it, right? So respectfully, I'm going to disagree a little bit. I think that chaos is still there. The difference is it's being mitigated by the fact that he's dedicating 6 6 throws to the screen game now, where before Josh loved to buy time and look downfield. We're seeing less of that. Although we did see them come out swinging at the beginning of this game. They were not going to let Baltimore keep that lead. They were just not. They were like, we're just going to push the ball downfield. We're just going to keep throwing it deep. And they didn't do that after the first quarter.
Mm-hmm. I say 2020 Josh Allen pitches that ball back to Ray Davis at the goal line. Like, did you see him on that 3rd and 2 play? He looked back at Ray Davis and he was ready to pitch that ball back to him, and then he thought better of it.
James Cook. That was James Cook.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cook. But yeah, I think 2020 Josh Allen throws that ball. I mean, because we
backwards.
Saw
it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The amount of dude, that would have been,
because you saw him looking. I mean, during the live stream, I was like, he's thinking about it, and don't do it. Just go down. Just do not do that.
Yeah, Pierre Shivas talking about it in the first Texans playoff game. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Pitched it back to the tight, maybe Knox. I think it might have been Knox at that time.
Yeah.
Love this. For a guy that you got at the trade deadline for peanuts, how effective will Amari Cooper be versus Kansas City? I think you're going to see a lot more of him in Kansas City. I really do. I think he's going to be one-on-one with Trent McDuffie.
I think that's what you want. I think you want them. I think you want to pull McDuffie to Cooper.
And that's what Cooper does for you.
And you're just fine with that. Yeah. Amari Cooper, 1 target today. That's it.
Well, I mean, and it was kind of like almost a throwaway.
Yeah. It wasn't a real target. Yeah.
But the thing was, like, effectively, I mean, we used to talk about Darrelle Revis back in the day. How Rex Ryan used to formulate his defense to be like, okay, Revis is taking that guy. We're going to play 10-on-10 with everybody else. The reverse may happen against Kansas City with Amari Cooper and Trent McDuffie. He might just be like, listen, we're just putting you on the field to take McDuffie out of the pass game.
Yeah.
Because we're going to go with somebody else. Like, literally, why not? Why wouldn't you try that? I mean, you're taking away one of their most effective weapons that Spagnuolo loves to use and just making him irrelevant for the game.
Garn coming in with a very bold statement. I believe Cooper will have better stats than MVS or Chase Claypool. That was a bold take. That's a bold statement.
Chase Claypool is my OJ Howard.
Yeah, I get it.
So much talent and ability, just nothing happens.
I get it. I totally understand. I was all in on Antonio Gibson this year in fantasy football. I was like, oh man, God. New England, no problem. He's gonna finally get his chance. Woo!
I'm a risk taker, guys. McDuffie should take Shakir. Oh, you think he's gonna play the slot? That's interesting.
I would love that for Buffalo. I would love that for Buffalo.
I mean, if you could push McDuffie to the slot, then that opens Cooper up. McDuffie's a problem, guys. Like, McDuffie's a problem.
He is a problem.
Houston didn't think so. But they have a different weapon. Houston targeted him a lot in that game yesterday.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Here's the other side of the coin that you guys got to take into consideration. When playing Baltimore, obviously, the weather conditions and much different things. Everything was standing. The strength of Baltimore's defense, as far as the secondary goes, is their safeties. For Kansas City, it's switched. Their corners are their strength. So how do you attack that? Do you do more vertical seam routes? Are we going to see more vertical routes out of the Buffalo Bills this week and some things like that? Because that could be one of those things. If they want to try to put McDuffie on the slot, Coleman and Cooper will eat on the outsides all day. Literally will eat on the outsides all day.
Dirty Randy says the same thing. Big Coleman game next week. I mean, the truth of the matter is, right?
Gary Coleman?
He's dead.
No,
cross him off then. So
let's talk about that reporter for Baltimore.
We have Mario bringing up dead guys. I don't know what's going on.
Reporter for Baltimore, guys. Stay with me here.
I mean, here's when you start talking about matchups, right, in the secondary. Well, McDuffie will take Shakir, and Coleman will get so-and-so. And that typically means that you're playing man coverage, right? Because Buffalo and Kansas City run a ton of mesh concepts, right? They really do. There are a lot of mesh concepts. And what that's designed to do is tear apart man coverage, right? and expose gaps in zone where guys aren't, where there's windows in zone coverage when you're running mesh concepts, right? And everybody plays Madden. Everybody knows mesh concepts. The receivers run like this. So that's a mesh concept effectively. But the fact of the matter is, when you start talking about those matchups, that assumes that McDuffie's playing man. And that also assumes that Kansas City is going to bring pressure, right? Because that frees up. If Kansas City is going to play man, that gives them an extra player to bring pressure. So do you think they'll bring pressure, or do you think they'll do something similar where they're just going to keep a hat on Josh and just try and contain what they can from him?
Doesn't Chris Jones do that by himself?
That's a good question.
Right.
But
that's a good question.
I'll say that though, the heavyweight bout in the first game that Osiris Torrance had with Chris Jones was just magical. I could watch that all day.
They're not going to make that mistake again.
No, they're not. But I mean, obviously Buffalo, their offensive line is a little bit more seasoned throughout the year. What they were able to do, what they're able to try to accomplish. I think that Spagnuolo will effectively try to run zone and only rush 4 to start. I don't think he's going to put anything exotic in first. I think he's going to wait.
Why?
Yeah,
if you can get there with 4 early, why? Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds stupid. It sounds very simple and basic, but that is one of those things that he wants to do. He wants to try to. What is the strength of Buffalo's offense? If you were looking at it right now, if you're looking at it's Josh Allen, it's James Cook, and then if he can get the ball to Shakir. I mean, that's really what the strength of this offense is. So if he's able to occupy the middle of the field, close down those running lanes, and then hem in Josh, occasionally bring off, safety blitz off the corner to try to, rush the pass that Josh has to throw. I mean, it's going to be the same thing as tonight in the fact that they have to get in a lot of those third and short scenarios. They can't be in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. That's where Spagnuolo literally lives there. And you're not going to get a first down on those. And much like you said for this game, Paul, 3 and out is going to be a turnover. 3 and out is going to be a turnover in this game.
Can't give up possessions. Can't give up possessions. And Buffalo did a damn good job of giving up possessions. Joe and I talked about it at halftime. That minus the turnovers and Buffalo's 1 punt, every other drive was a red zone drive for both teams. And the rest of the game wasn't too dissimilar from that. Kansas City didn't punt. Or Baltimore didn't punt. Sorry, excuse me. Baltimore didn't punt. So that's where this game was. Like every drive you had to get there. You had to get something. You had to get a point. Any point you could take. However you got them. Didn't matter. But and the tail end of that game, it wasn't dissimilar. And Buffalo, unfortunately, again, was on the other side of, we're gonna punt the ball. Like we're gonna just run a couple plays here. 3 and out. Give the ball away. That's a mistake you can't make against Kansas City. You got those 3 and outs back by generating 3 turnovers, right? Like you got 2 of those back, so you were +1 as far as turnovers are concerned, in my opinion. But like Baltimore didn't go 3 and out.
No, and you can't score 6 points in the second half at Kansas City. No, you can't do that. So,
if we go into that game with as big of up 21-10 though too, right?
I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be less shocked.
Joe, when did you change hats?
He did, didn't he?
It just happened. Magic. I'm the magic man.
Were you Madonna? What the hell?
And nobody told me we had to have outfit changes.
It'd be more cone shaped if it was Madonna.
Easy there, Ariana Grande. Okay, listen, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, as Joe knows, as Paul knows, and as #Nation knows, when we win, we roast. So I am going to throw 3 minutes up on the clock for everybody. And you guys can roast anything you want. This is a very unique staple of #sports. You won't find it anywhere else. So make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button. Check us out even more, guys. We're going to have more of these things.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, those Ravens fans that said they were going to be here
didn't show up.
They didn't show. Oh, what a shock.
They're probably working, probably busy. Things happen.
Love Joe's stemmed mason jar glass. Top tier Pennsylvania resident.
Comment section.
Top tier Pennsylvania resident.
You know where I'm from just from this, right? Yeah. Is Joe Amish? I forget. I don't know.
Yeah. What barrel did you pull that moonshine out of there, Joe?
He crafted that hat himself. He didn't buy it. He's so crazy. I would feel bad roasting him again. Okay, so class and style. Hat model.
That's it. That's how we do it.
So we're going to put 3 minutes on. Paul will be the lucky reader that we got because I'm a math guy and Joe just watched the game for 3.5 hours and called it. So Paul's going to read these for us. Former comm major.
Listen, guys. Listen. We're good, I promise. Oh, come on, DF. Brett screwed Brett. You know that's how it goes.
Does DF put that in there all the time? I can't remember.
Yeah, he always put Brett screwed Brett. That's again an old school joke that goes back for years at this point. We are years.
That doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. No, hey. There's some exceptions. Yeah. Andrew's drop was due to Mario taking all the stickum for his hair. Mar.
Yes.
We got to talk about this hair situation.
What are we going to do about it?
I don't know.
This son of a bitch. Traffic cone with a wig.
There we go. Thank you, John.
John, you sandbagging son of a bitch.
That is a good one. That is a good one. I do enjoy that.
Guys, there's 2 other people on the dais. In case you want to roast them.
Mario looks like a rat is about to pop out of his hair.
Honestly, honestly.
There you go. Okay. That skull hat makes you look like a test tube boy. I don't know, guys. My parents were married for like 12 minutes. I don't know what happened. So
he's still out getting the milk.
Stephon Diggs is the Bills' example of the Ewing theory.
Oh my God, that's
deep pull.
That's a deep pull, 100%. Vega with the deep pull. I love it.
Mario is the kind of teacher who is notorious for letting students play with his hair.
What? No.
Yeah, looks like a lunch lady on Halloween.
Eat your sloppy Joe and shut up.
I know I like them extra sloppy for you.
Yep. Paul looks like he's about to play a burglar in a dirty movie.
Buffalo Mafia, is that the one where you skip the first part?
Gary's both hats Joe wore today are better than any hat Mario's worn in 5 years.
That is good. That is good.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a good one. That's a good one.
We
have to get you a hairnet. We got to get you a hairnet for post game. See, nobody bagged on your hair when you wore those stupid ski hats.
I know.
Yep, there we go. I'm going to hit Five Below on Joe's half so his background can match the other 2. That's it, buddy. Five Below. Yeah, we got to get you a tile theme. I don't know if you caught the memo. We need a tile theme. Apparently, mine is a prison bathroom from what I've seen in the chat.
A prison bathroom? Oh,
yeah, it was called the prison bathroom earlier tonight. Yeah, there we go. All of our success is due to Bob Ross. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. The only reason Mario doesn't cut his hair is because he knows it's not growing back.
I can't imagine how boring these roast sessions would be if I cut my hair.
Yeah, we just don't do them when you're not here.
No, we wouldn't do them at all. Like literally.
Yeah. Your helmet. Do you remember the helmet? Do you still have that helmet?
I do. It's up there. I got it.
You have the helmet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have to break that out.
It's coming out. Oh, it's if the Bills beat Kansas City, I'm wearing it. 100%. So, why does 2/3 of the screen look like the Bills theme? Dungeon.
See what I tell you. What I tell you.
Bills. Yep. It's not a red room. It's a Bills room. All right. Ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation and Bills Mafia, thank you for joining us. You watched the Hashtag Sports presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus the Baltimore Ravens divisional round game. The oven is currently on. That's why I'm not wearing a hat. So thank you so much, guys.
Again, an old school joke about how Mario
Oh,
eats
yeah.
his house.
Oh, yeah. You guys got to show up more for all these jokes. You guys could be.
Listen, there's nothing wrong after a good conversation. Give it a nice little slap. All right, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's fine. Leave me alone.
So listen, on your way out, guys, make sure you turn the light off and hit that like button. We are out of here. The show is sponsored by Mr. Rogers Homes. Brochure is in the description of this video. Buffalo Bills Victory Monday is going to be pretty awesome tomorrow. So for Joe and Paul, I am Mario. We're Hashtag Sports, and we're out of here, guys.
Hello, fellow Bills fans. Sean Rogers, Realtor and lead of the Mr. Rogers Homes team. Did you know that real estate is one of the best ways to build wealth, and right now is one of the best times to own an investment property in Arizona? Please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions so we can take the next step to your financial freedom here in the Valley of the Sun, utilizing real estate. As always, God bless America, and go Buffalo!